Welcome everyone to Navigating IVDR Compliance, Insights from Twist and Platomics for Laboratories. I want to introduce you the speakers for today. Sanjay Ahuja is Doctor in Materials of Science and has certifications in Six Sigma Belt. He is the head of Twist Regulatory Affairs and Quality Department and Vice President of the company. Sanjay is specialized in globally regulated RUO, LUO, IVDR, medical devices, drugs, biologics, and cell therapy products. He has expertise in global regulatory affairs, CMC, clinical affairs, health economics, and market access. In his career, he has achieved expedited product deployments through innovative pathways. Our second speaker is Christopher Kim. He is NGS Senior Staff Product Manager. Chris brings 17 years of diverse experience in global market and global product management and marketing in the life science market. Before working on the industry, he worked for 12 years at the University of Pennsylvania and the Salk Institute of Biological Studies on the field of the molecular biology and genomic research. And last but not least, we have Elena Gromberg, a PhD, Head of Customer Success, IVDR Manufacturers at Platomics. Elena combines her background and experience in the molecular diagnostics industry with a second degree in medical informatics and software development to help build valuable solutions for the labs and IVDR manufacturers. I want to introduce you now the topics that we will have today. So first, we will have an introduction on IVDR, what is it, why it matters, and where we come from. And then we will deep dive on the impact of the IVDR laboratories, understanding what are the challenges and next steps. After this, we will talk about Twist commitment to IVDR compliance at Twist Solutions. And then we will hand over to Platomics. Our partner will give a brief presentation, and then we will see a demo of the Plato X to learn about the solution and how this solution can help us to lab the IVDR compliance. Then at the end, we will do some conclusions, take-home message, and we will have some time to take the questions. Please write them on the chat box. So, Sanjay, all yours.
All right, appreciate it, Gemma. Appreciate for the introduction, and it's awesome to be here. And it's an opportunity for us to be able to also provide our thoughts in terms of IVDR submission as well as the IVDR challenges. So why don't you go to the next slide, and then let's start this. So I'll start, of course, in terms of the EU IVDR, which came out in 2017, and then because of COVID times, we had some delays in the implementation, and there was a grace period which was much longer thanks to COVID. But of course, on the other side is that now the EU is committed to be able to have the IVDR regulations in force, and some of the high-risk devices already have the deadline passed, and we need to be compliant, and we cannot really release or market any device without the IVDR compliance. So how did that really go about, and what happened? So really, there have been events in the medical device industry, and it was the PIP implant, which really caused some issues back in 2010. And because of that, we had a tighter regulations in the medical device area, and then it got translated into having tighter regulations in the IVDR world as well. And so really, in terms of looking at what the Joint Commission in EU has done, is they have just looked at it from the safety perspective, from the end user perspective. And so there are benefits which they have emphasized in the regulations. And it's really, it goes from improving the quality and safety of the products prior to deploying them into the field. And that has really been enabled by having much stricter requirements uh, for the clinical evidence piece as well as the risk management piece. So the onus is on the manufacturers to be able to meet the requirements, and also the Joint Commission has indicated that, hey, we need increased transparency in terms of having more about what the FDA does. We have a good ID database for the FDA, and we also have a 510(k) database, which essentially provides transparency to the other manufacturers in terms of what are the products that have been approved. And so what the Joint Commission did was uh, they have endeavored into creating the Euromed database for the EU, which is the counterpart of the Good ID database here, but also it'll, it'll be counterpart of the 510(k) database. And that's really to be able to make sure that there's a like a harmonization in terms of the transparency, and also the notified bodies also have to be very transparent with regards to ascertaining that they can communicate with each other for any product issues from the companies. Certainly, the other benefit of the IVDR is also the Joint Commission has now requested an enhanced market surveillance. And so we need to have more of the complaint handling, and we need to have more of internal processes to be able to manage the customer events. There are four classifications. Really, it's which has allowed us to be able to make it risk-based. Of the Class A, they used to be self-certified, but now some of the high-risk Class A devices, they also go through the competent authority and also a notified body. And so really, the harmonization of the classification definitely helps. Obviously, there are challenges for the industry, and it also increases the complexity and the cost, complexity of the submission of the clinical trials. And it also has the potential to be able to have some delays because the launches, it used to be just a very simple kind of IVDD application, and then it has transpired into a much more rigorous application, and much more emphasis on the clinical safety and also risk assessment as well. So the companies need to definitely make some adjustments and then partner with the right people. And I believe the partnership with the right people is definitely very important. And there are tools available that enable this partnership, but then also there's expertise that can be leveraged in the marketplace as well. So definitely a transformative regulation, and I believe it does has the has a tendency towards really improving the safety and effectiveness of the products, which will go into the field, because there's a lot of upfront work that needs to be performed prior to the deployment and marketing the devices. If we can go to the next slide. Looking at what's going on in the marketplace, and what has been transpiring. The regulations came about in 2017, but of course there has been some delays, as I mentioned, because of the COVID outbreak. And so really what has really happened is there has been a slow influx of the applications that has really transpired. And there are some statistics here which I wanted to share in terms of where the volume is increasing now, because the Joint Commission will not be extending the dates anymore, and we need to be able to abide by the dates to be able to meet the intent of the regulation. And so really looking at it from the MDR perspective and then the IVDR perspective, the number of applications received, if you look in the MDR world, has gone up 9 times. And then if you look at it from the IVDR perspective, it has gone up about 5 times. And then also the number of certificate issued, it's a very interesting statistics. If you look at the number of MDR in 2023 certificates, it's only 1/3 of what was submitted. So really, there's a lot of due diligence in the certification. And similarly, for the IVDR, only half of the applications have been approved. So there are definitely surmounting challenges for the industry, and certainly the number of designated notified bodies, as you can see, that they have crept up a little bit, but of course there has been consolidation as well. And so also the estimate of the review time has gone up. And even for Class A devices, it's really gone up. There was no statistic in 2022, I mean, 2020, but now we have about, it takes about 12 to 18 months to get the approval. And why this is happening is because the notified bodies are definitely strapped. They're hiring more people. And that's why you do have a little bit more of an influx with regards to the number of people who are moving from the industry and joining the notified body. So there are a lot of R&D personnel. They have been moving, and we have firsthand information that that has been the trend for the notified body to be able to really scrutinize from the R&D perspective that the data has the appropriate prowess, that it can be sustainable. So really, it is also a capacity versus demand, and it's also in terms of looking at from the perspective of the demand. The notified bodies have to employ the appropriate personnel. The past tendency has been to be able to just hire auditors, and now the new tendency is to hire more of the PhDs and more of the R&D personnel, because they want to emphasize the clinical evidence, the safety, and also effectiveness and efficacy of the devices as well. And that is causing the delays, and that's also causing the less number of certificates being issued. And of course, the outcome of that is that the new devices are taking longer to be able to get deployed. And so the notified bodies understand that they need to ramp up and up the ante, and then be able to just have a support and get their population up in terms of the number of auditors, the technical auditors uh, that need to be employed by them. Uh, so really, there might be an impact with regards to the impact on patient care. But then, of course, in 2024, the outlook is definitely looking better, and there have been positive development in the workforce. And the overall progress is definitely ramping up now. And so, looking at it from the perspective of so many certificates that are expiring now, and they won't be renewed under the old IVD directive, which is a 1996 directive, and they need to be definitely get reevaluated under the IVDR regulation. So that's really the influx will be coming even more. So we have a small short reprieve where the notified bodies are now employing the right number of people, and then the review cycle has decreased. But the number of certificates that are expiring, the IVDD certificates that are expiring in the industry, is also going up. And the notified bodies are not allowed to renew the IVDD certificates. They have really only one recourse. The industry has only one recourse, is to go into the IVDR world and to be a little bit more cognizant with regards to the safety and effectiveness of the devices. Okay. So if we go to the next slide, Gemma. Um, so in terms of looking at where we are compared to the challenges for the IVDR compliance, and I am just emphasizing the Class A products, because some of the Class A higher risk products, which have the application for therapeutics as an example, we have a requirement for ensuring the regulatory compliance, and also be able to build a stronger foundation. Now, the regulatory compliance earlier, most of the Class A products used to be self-certified, and now when you have applications and employment of those products, which are part of the overall workflow, and that workflow has a benefit of maybe a positive patient outcome, or a patient outcome like in the therapeutic world, for instance, maybe a disease indication or an outcome indication. Those kind of products are definitely a high risk, and there's a requirement for them to uh, go through a competent authority approval for some countries, and then also an authorized rep approval. But then, of course, there's also an option to go into a notified body approval. So well, even the Class A products, which are just part of the overall equation, need to go through a rigor. So obviously, there is a benefit for the Class A products to be IVDR certified, because it does build a stronger foundation for the companies, but then also it helps accelerate the time to market for those therapeutic products which are employing the Class A products. And then, of course, it does enhance the brand reputation with regards to uh, having, well, even Class A products early on to be able to get certified. And then, we have a little bit more of an edge in the marketplace, and we have the ability to be able to partner with more complex disease indication products, and like companion diagnostics, and which are basically requiring IVDR certified or approved subproducts which are part of the workflow. And the Class A products going through IVDR, which have been reviewed by the competent authorities or the authorized rep or the notified bodies, they do boost the customer confidence that there has been a neutral organization which has approved those devices. So, of course, challenges abound, and there is an increased regulatory burden. It takes longer. We need a lot of clinical evidence for Class A products as well, and then also longer certification times. And then also, there's a potential that there may be some delays in terms of manufacturing these, because it takes longer. You have much more rigorous quality control measures. And so the cycle time is much larger in terms of manufacturing these devices, and then also qualify them for the indication and the intended use that they are approved for. So really, one has to think about these challenges holistically. So these are basic, I'm talking about Class A products. Then you go for Class B and C and D products, and as they are getting submitted, it's definitely better to just partner with companies who already have Class A approved products. So, it's definitely a benefit because it reduces the cycle time and the burden. And the notified body already has a package of IVDR approved Class A products, and which has gone through the diligence of the clinical evidence that has been demonstrated for those products. And so the companies which are pursuing the higher risk products would definitely benefit from employing suppliers, or like products which are already in the marketplace, which are already Class A or Class B approved. So it definitely helps out in the overall review cycle, but then it also helps out in terms of the burden of the manufacturing of those products within a single company, and it gets distributed across. So if we go to the next slide, and so here, what we have is it's an overall kind of a flow, and it's a gist with regards to what needs to be done with regards to just getting the IVDR products approved. And it starts with identifying the intended purpose and author classification. And there are annexes which are utilized to be able to classify the products appropriately. And then the classification has to be accurate, because if you don't have a good accurate classification, it can be up-classified by a notified body, or by even the Joint Commission if they find out about an incorrect registration in the Euromed database. And what really also we require is much more rigorous risk management, and also general safety, and also performance requirements that need to be submitted We need very good clinical evidence, and then we have a conformity assessment. Now, all the products don't need to go through the conformity assessment uh, based upon if you have an, if you have some ISO certification. So you have the ability to be able to reduce your conformity assessment, but still there is a minimum required with regards to how the product conforms to the disease indication, as an example. So the outcome of the review by a notified body or an authorized rep or a competent authority is we get a device approval and registration, and then we focus on the post-market obligations like you have complaint handling, and then also the clinical evaluation, uh, which has to be performed annually, and all the post-market surveillance gets fed into the clinical evaluation. So if you look on the right side, it provides more of a logical thought process with regards to even how one needs to go about, and it's a complex dossier that needs to be compiled and submitted. Above all, for us to be able to have some visibility, we need to register in the Euromed as well. And Euromed has been delayed, but it is coming. And now it's voluntary, but then soon it'll be mandatory. The next slide, please.
Sanjay, you
So
have a couple of minutes left, if that's fine.
yeah, no, all good. And and so, like, let me just blaze through these. I just essentially have some summary slides here. In terms of, I have already mentioned about the critical role of the Class A IVDR products, and it's a foundation of the higher risk products. And again, there's a lot of rigorous standards that need to be considered even for Class A products. So the Twist products, they do have the Class A designation, but we had to go through the clinical evidence, and it took us a considerable amount of time to be able to demonstrate the safety and also effectiveness over a wide range of variants. And so that was another reason for us to be able to have the complete package that went to the competent authority and also the authorized rep to be able to get the approval. Going to the next slide, Gemma, please. And so really, the commitment we have for the IVDR compliance is it's not just the scientific evidence that we provided to the competent authority and also the authorized rep, not just the substantive, the clinical evidence that we had to provide, but it's also the internal manufacturing, which is definitely differentiated from really the research use only products as well. So we have some additional quality control, and we have a much more stringent workflow controls, and also the QC controls, and also much tighter QC, much tighter QC tolerances, which ascertains that we have very consistent products that go out to the customers for their employment into their workflow for their high-risk devices. So we had to submit the data integrity and also reliability aspects as well into a submission. And so the end users now can really benefit from employing the the products that Twist has into their work streams, and then just be able to ascertain that yes, they have the reproducibility and also reliability of the products. And then finally, we have also mitigated a lot of risk, and we have a very robust risk management plan which had to be submitted as part of a dossier. So continuous monitoring is a key, and that's what we have been doing that at Twist to be able to provide the right type of products which are sustainable in the marketplace. Going to the next slide, Gemma, please. And this is the final slide before we pass it on to Chris. What we have is how are Twist products enabling the rapid development. So if you are focused on variant calling, if you're focused on disease indication like therapeutics, but also you are focused on identifying in terms of mutations, it's it's much better to be able to employ products which have IVDR certification already and also approvals, because we have the ability, as you're moving into the high-risk products, you can focus on the core competencies of the downstream impact and also the user-centric kind of environment. And also it reduces the overall cycle time in terms of development. So just like what we have in the US, you have the chemistry, manufacturing, and controls. The IVDR certification allows you to be able to have, what's called suppliers, and which already have approvals, and one doesn't need to go through the rigor of the chemistry, manufacturing, and control of those products and kits. The enhanced quality control also helps out in terms of ascertaining that what you get today is what you'll get tomorrow and even next year. So we have a very much more tighter control in our quality control and also quality release processes. And so the credibility of the supplier who is offering the IVDR certified components definitely strengthens the regulatory submission. And the regulatory agencies have already reviewed the dossier from these suppliers like Twist, and it allows to be able to vouch for the integrity of the overall application. And then, finally, one of the important aspect of manufacturing IVDR product is to be able to ascertain that you don't have any product mix-up. And so at Twist, we do manufacture the IVDR products in very segregated, ISO-certified clean rooms, and it allows to be able to have a much more sustainable product offering to the customers. Okay. Gemma, go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. Okay, so now we move on with Chris Kim.
Perfect. Thanks, Gemma. And thank you, Sanjay, for the review of the IVDR and the recent updates that we've seen with applications, as well as the work of the European notified body. Today, what I'd like to cover is just reviewing how Twist is developing flexible solutions, digging a little deeper into what Sanjay has been talking about. And this is really to support the customers with the development of their IVDR workflows. So next slide. So to start, I'd like to talk about several of our recent IVDR approved products. This is under our Twist Precision DX product line. And this is Twist's first CE mark product that meets the new IVDR regulatory requirements. Our portfolio is modular in nature, and it's really to serve your needs. And there's 3 configurations. The first product is our Twist Precision Exome DX kit, which offers a comprehensive exome workflow. It has all the reagents needed to create a sample library and will produce targeted exome-enriched libraries that are compatible for NGS applications. The second product is our Precision Prep and Enrichment DX kit. Now, this library prep kit is panel agnostic. Customers can use this kit with DNA probes that they supply, but one thing to keep in mind is Twist's core competency and expertise is our ability to provide high-quality fixed content panel, as well as custom panel design and development. So just want to make you guys aware of that. And finally, we have our standalone Twist Precision Exome DX panel. This is our qualified DNA exome panel, and it's used in our Twist Precision Exome DX kit, but can also be used as a standalone in other users' their own workflow. Can we go to the next slide? Now, IVDR has established a risk-based classification system as categorized all in vitro diagnostic devices, and they're divided into 4 risk classes, ranging from class A, B, C to D. Class A is the lowest risk, while like a class C device, it has high patient risk, but moderate public health risk. Our Twist Precision DX kits are class A devices, But the main reason for that is that the library prep and target enrichment workflow, they do not come in contact with clinical samples and are not used to aid in diagnosis. However, many Class B and C devices can be built upon IVDR certified Class A devices, as long as there's no modification to the IFU or intended purpose. These Class A devices can be integrated by the laboratories. The one thing I do want to note here is, we have developed a great offering through our sales team, field team, as well as Sanjay. So we have the ability to bring in our regulatory support, and they can assist and consult on determination from the very start of what you guys want to do from a classification standpoint, as well as assisting in a provision and providing of technical documentations that we have available. Next slide. So during the transition of IVDR as it progresses, I do want to highlight how these kind of stack up in terms of Twist's ability to offer these flexible solution. Again, we talked about our IVD solution from a product perspective. We have several DX products that will meet your needs, and associated with that is the technical documentation that we can provide for you. And again, it can be integrated to a workflow that's of higher risk class, ranging from B or C. It can be integrated, and we can support you on that. And that really points to the fact that we have the regular support team that you may need or can tap into. We have the ability to do consultation for the IVDR classification. And with Sanjay's years of experience, he has worked with many notified bodies and can help facilitate communications with them. And then another key part of us developing a flexible solution for you is we are always looking and identifying key partners that we can work with. One partner I wanted to highlight for today is our collaboration and partnership with Platomics and their software tool, Platomics. This platform really allows the seamless integration of Twist products into your IVDR workflow. And it also is a great repository for us to centralize all of the documentations we have in one location that you can access. And it also keeps that documentation all up to date. Once you have heard about this and access the platform, it really is a partnership to support you from two fronts. So with that, I'd like to pass it over to Elena as she goes over Platomics platform.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to present our solutions here. So as Chris correctly said, I am representing Platomics. And Platomics is a software company with the mission of transforming regulatory for in vitro diagnostics. And how exactly we are doing this? We are connecting manufacturers and laboratories on one platform, and we are automating regulatory work based on intelligent data. Gemma, please go to the next slide, where I want to show you what exactly we have to offer to laboratories. These are two solutions: PlatoX in-house module, a fully guided program for documenting in-house devices with the built-in features such as guidance, structured files, regulatory knowledge base, automation, and so on. And additionally, we also offer a PlatoX NGS validation solution available for germline NGS that supports creation of validation plan, performs in silico validation execution, and supports generation of validation report. And I just want to say a few words before I switch to the demonstration of our solutions. Next slide, please. About the PlatoX in-house module, which is available free of charge for all European laboratories. You can request an access to PlatoX platform using the link that will be now sent in the chat. And as Sanjay already highlighted, the generation of technical documentation is done in several steps by following the creation of documentation for intended purpose, by risk classification, describing the design of the test in the workflow studio, and assessing general safety and performance requirements, performance evaluation, and last but not least, risk management. And all of these steps are also covered in our software, and our software will guide through these steps in a significantly reduced time as compared to manual process. And in the end, the complete in-house IVD file can be generated. But before I switch to the demo, I also want to say a few words about NGS validation service. Next slide, please, which can be seamlessly integrated into Platox in-house module and serves as an addition to performance evaluation solution. Next slide, please. Platox NGS validation service fills the gaps in understanding requirements and terminology, and the understanding how to design the validation study, which we know can be a challenge for laboratories when it comes to performing wet lab work or generate validation data. We know that laboratories usually don't have any struggles, but everything else can present a challenge for laboratories. So Platox NGS validation supports in designing the study, in selecting right sample size, in selecting suitable reference material via the in-app guidance and built-in knowledge base. With the NGS validation, the laboratory can easily introduce a new test or upgrade existing tests in the service faster, and this, as I said, can be also integrated into in-house IVD documentation. And now I would like to share my screen and present you the key features of our software.
You should be able to share your screen now, Elena.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you should be able to see the list of different in-house tests. I will choose the sample that I created for demonstrational purposes. This is an in-house test based on the whole exome sequencing. And what you see on the main screen right now is the guidance through different sections of the technical documentation. So if a user fills out these sections from top to bottom, then the complete technical file for this test will be generated. And the automation is implemented through interactive parts of the software, such as wizards or studios. I will demonstrate you on the example of the intended purpose wizard, what exactly I mean under automation and guidance. So in this case, the wizard helps to generate the text of the intended purpose for this test. And this is done by guiding the user through a set of questions that are covering different aspects of the test, such as, for example, which devices are included into this workflow, what is the main function of the workflow, what kind of samples it is handling, is it automated or manual, and so on. So different aspects that have to be covered in the intended purpose are all listed in this questionnaire. And once the user filled out the questionnaire, the text of the intended purpose can be generated by clicking one button. And you can see that the text is generated and it looks like a human written text. And therefore, the intended purpose can be generated within just a few minutes. And once the interactive part is completed, the user can continue to the next part, which is a generation of the document itself. And in this case, we have an intended purpose document. If I open it for editing, you will see that this document is presented in something that looks like a document editor with a typical classical document editing tools. And the user can still add or change the information in this document, but we already provided a structure for it that can be just adopted by the user. You also can see highlighted in light gray text that have been inserted, have been retrieved from internal variables and inserted in these documents to those places where this information belongs. And by this, the document was automatically constructed by the software and can be used as this. So if I complete document and export it, I can save it in my document management system if I'm a laboratory and move to the next step. The next step is a risk classification, but it functions in a similar way as intended purpose. I would like to skip it. And instead of that, demonstrate your workflow studio. It's a little bit different functionality. The purpose of Workflow Studio is to describe a design of the test by listing different steps which a laboratory employee has to follow to perform this diagnostic test. In my case, it's a DNA extraction step, quality control, NGS library preparation and enrichment, pre-sequencing, and so on. So all steps that we need for such NGS test. And you can also notice that to each of the steps, I have already linked different products. These are not real products. These I created also for demonstrational purposes, but you can imagine that real products can be added here. They can be searched in our product database. In the product database, they were added by manufacturers, and the regulatory data was provided for each such product. And if I click, we can see some of the data provided by the manufacturer here, some of the documents that has been attached, but this is also not all the information, that's just a part of it. More information is saved internally in the system, and by linking these products to your workflow, the software transfers this information to the workflow and uses this information in internal built-in algorithms to predefine answers to next sections or to pre-fill documents in the downstream sections. For example, in the GSPR wizard, we prepared a list of questions based on which the applicability of every general safety and performance requirement will be defined automatically by the software. And the answers to this questionnaire were already pre-filled by the software based on the regulatory data provided by manufacturers. These are, for example, the questions such as, does this workflow contain or handle infectious material? Does it incorporate materials of biological origin? Does it contain potentially dangerous substances or mixture of substances? So you can imagine that all this data can be inferred from the set of products that are used in this workflow. So the user has to review the answers, confirm their correctness, but basically this is much easier and faster than doing this from scratch. And once the GSPR wizard is complete, the user can continue with providing the missing information. So you can see that in the GSPR Studio, all 3 chapters of GSPR are already pre-filled to a certain percentage based on the data provided before or data uploaded by the manufacturers. And here the user just has to review each requirement. In this case, the text of requirement itself is available. If the requirement is complicated to understand, we also provide a built-in knowledge database, which contains additional text to help you in a regular language, explains in a regular language and helps to understand how to meet these requirements, gives an examples how this requirement can be met, some additional considerations, and even in the context of a laboratory environment, what this requirement exactly means and how to approach it if you are a diagnostic laboratory. What else is needed to complete or to fulfill the requirement is to provide standards and guidelines. And here we also give support by providing a database of different standards. We even already pre-selected those standards that are suitable for this particular GSPR. If I now remove this slider, you will see that our database contains many more different standards that are available for the selection. They can be searched here by the keyword, but to make it easier for user, we even already pre-selected those standards that can be applicable to GSPR number 1. This is what we are reviewing at the moment. And the last but not least, the evidence documents have to be referenced for each requirement. And here again, the database of different documents can be used. Here in this place, you can see all the documents that were provided by manufacturer and can be also referenced here in the GSPRs, or those documents that have been already created in our in-house module, and they can be added to the requirement. And with this, the requirement is considered complete. So it's already clicked that it's complete, and the user can move to the next requirement. So this is just a quick demonstration of basic principles on which the software is built. Of course, there are many more other sections. There is a performance evaluation section. There is a risk management with all corresponding documents, a management plan, risk management records, risk management report, and so on. By completing all this documentation, the laboratory can make sure that their test is compliant with IVDR. And I'm not demonstrating the validation tool, but it's based on the similar principles. It also has a built-in knowledge base. It has a guidance that helps the decision-making, that helps moving from one document to another. And it, of course, based on automation that helps to very quickly generate validation report and validation plan. Okay, that's all from my side. I will now switch back to Gemma.
Thank you. That was a nice demo. Okay, so I shared the link on the chat box, so you all should be able to see it. Now we are going to jump to the summary and conclusions.
Great. Let's do thanks Elena for the live walkthrough and demo. In conclusion, I do want to highlight that IVDR transition is here. In fact, the deadline for in-house IVD or lab developed test was back in May of 2024 this year. And this is under the provision of Article 5.5. So we are encouraging early implementation to ensure a smooth transition, as it is essential. We are expecting in 2025 a higher number of approval submissions and the anticipation of possibly longer evaluation periods for the notified body, upwards of 12 months, as Sanjay has said, to almost 2 years. So to ensure accuracy and completeness of your submission, as you can see, we do have offerings that we have from Twist, starting with our modular CE marked Precision DX products, as well as the expertise and guidance of our regulatory team, as well as key partners as like Platomics and Elena's demonstration. Our overall goal is to simplify the IVDR submission process for you. So we encourage you to partner with us today and reach out to us. And for more information, we do have a provided link below. So with that, I will open it up to any questions, Gemma, that may have come through the chat.
Yes, we don't have a lot of time, but because we have some questions, I want to just to pick up what I think that it will be one for each of you guys. So, for example, Chris, if you can explain us a little bit more about the content of the Twist Precision Exome DX panel.
Absolutely. Yeah, we covered this in our first webinar, but I'd love to go into more detail. So our Exome DX panel is enrichment probes that target about 37.7 megabases of the human genome. But we designed it to cover provide maximal coverage of the protein coding regions of the genome. And it also includes the mitochondrial genome. So it covers about 98% of the target bases at about 30x coverage. And we got a lot of our reference from key databases like RefSeq, GenCode, CCDX, as well as Ensemble.
Perfect. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. Okay, so then maybe one for Elena. So can you elaborate a little bit more on what kind of assistance do you give to your customers? Like, for example, do you can you help with running experiments or talking with the regulatory agencies?
No, we only provide a digital platform which facilitates generation of the documentation. But this digital platform is equipped with a knowledge base that can support in making decisions on how to, for example, build the study design for the validation study, but we are not working with the other parties.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So then we will end with one more question for Sanjay. Let's see, we have a couple of them. So, but I would say that if you can explain a little bit how is this workflow, how it has been approved. If you can explain a little bit on that, I think it will be, yeah, there is a couple of questions around that topic. You're on mute, Sanjay.
Yes, of course. Thank you for the opportunity and a great presentation from Chris and Alina here. And thank you, Gemma, for coordinating. But in terms of the what we have done for the submission, so we have 3 products. Of course, we have multiple products in the pipeline, but the one that Chris alluded to, we have the light kit, which has a separate approval, and then we have the Exome panel, which has a separate on its own approval, and then we have a combination kit and also Exome panel. So the indication is such that we have our own Exome panel qualified, but also a user supplied Exome panel. So the advantage of that is that you just have a bridging validation, which is much easier to complete compared to the overall validation and that was performed by us, and it took us a good 2 years to be able to complete our clinical evidence, and we had a third party which helped us in terms of giving us the database and then the variant calling, and that allowed us to be able to attest to a much wider end user outcomes. And so the approval cycle is really to be able to submit the clinical evidence, the safety, and also effectiveness of the product, and also a very elaborate risk assessment, and which involved the failure mode and effects analysis for the process and the design. And so, of course, just like Alina mentioned, general safety and performance requirements, and and then also a good clinical evaluation understanding as well in terms of how the product could be used and that could be beneficial. So it was a long run process, but of course, the outcome is favorable. And just like Chris mentioned, we do have the products available for the end user to be able to integrate them into their own complex products.
I do want to add that this was reviewed and approved by an authorized rep, and we did submit to competent authorities that allow us to sell in all EU countries, as well as Switzerland and the UK. So
that's true. And just to add to Chris's point, there are additional approvals from Italy and France as well, which was in addition to Switzerland, which required another set of submissions going to those competent authorities. So there's a lot of scrutiny for the IVD products, unlike the IVD products. And so we are definitely on the receiving end of a very good product, which has been approved by an external third party and multiple third parties. Good point, Chris. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much to our speakers, and thank you again for everybody who has attended, and thank you for your patience with this delay that we have had. So we will answer the questions that are pending on the chat by email, and we will have the recording of this webinar available on our website. Thank you again, and have a nice day.